Star Trek, the ultimate franchise. These are the podcasts of the Wakefield brothers. Their 16-year mission to watch every production, to seek out life lessons and new inspirations, to boldly watch like most fans have watched before. Welcome back to Temporal Directive, the Star Trek fan podcast rewatching the entire franchise in chronological order. I'm Gary.
And I'm Tom.
And this week, we're watching Star Trek Enterprise's Dear Doctor. Okay, this week, Dear Doctor, written by Maria and Andre Jacqueminton, who have written episodes before because I've mispronounced their names before. Directed by James A. Contner. First of 5 episodes directing for Enterprise. He worked a lot on Buffy and Angel around this time.
Ah, nice.
Yeah.
That's great.
This episode originally aired January 23rd, 2002, and the IMDb synopsis reads, are you ready?
Yep.
Phlox is asked to save the Valakians from annihilation by disease. However, he discovers something unusual about the Menk, another humanoid race on the planet.
That sounds interesting.
Sounds good. You don't remember this one?
No, don't remember it, but I like the fact that it's a Phlox episode for starters.
Finally.
Yeah, it's really good. And it just sounds like a good episode. It's a good one. And
sounds good.
And it's actually a good IMDb synopsis. Usually it's like they see a ship, they go to the ship, done.
All right, let's go watch it.
Alrighty.
And we're back from watching Dear Doctor. First impressions, Tom, what did you think?
I actually really liked it.
What?
Probably the first episode in the whole thing.
What?
Yeah, that I've actually liked without...
You enjoyed an Enterprise episode?
It was really good.
Are we in the mirror universe right now? You do have a goatee.
Yeah. True, but it's not new. It'd be without the goatee that would be the problem.
Okay, you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was good. Yep, there was very few things that made any issues.
Okay, well, a good episode is more than an absence of fault.
Yes. Yes. No, it was really good. I really like John Billingsley. He done a really good job. That was just brilliant, that whole episode.
Yeah, he was brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, he done an episode of Orville with the Doctor out of Voyager as well.
Right.
So they done an episode together.
Right.
And he played like the bad guy in that, and he just done a really good job. And
yeah, right.
I mean, I really liked the Orville, but that was just a really good episode in that as well.
Why do you like the Orville?
Huh? Because it's sort of like a funny take of Star Trek. I don't know. I just like it.
I hate it.
I could imagine you'd hate it.
And do you know what bugs me even more? The fact that it's included on all these different Star Trek websites as if it's part of the franchise.
No, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be considered
I hate
part.
it.
It shouldn't be considered.
I don't want to go on trekmovie.com and see Orville updates.
Yeah, no, it shouldn't be like that. No, Orville's a separate entity completely. That would annoy the shit out of me too.
Yeah.
Because it's not Star Trek. It's absolutely not Star Trek. It may be heavily inspired by Star Trek and all that kind of thing, but it's not in any way.
No. It's basically a funded fan production.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is exactly what it is.
Without being able to use any of the copyright stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But that's exactly what it is. I mean, Seth MacFarlane's just a big Star Trek fan.
Yeah, he is. And he has cameos in Enterprise.
Yeah, that's right. And he's a fan who has connections and money enough to be able to fund his own TV show. His
own fan films.
That's right. He's lucky enough to do that. Lucky fucker. But I like Seth MacFarlane's humour as well. So, I do like the show.
Why?
As a separate as a separate entity.
No, there's been some things of his that I've enjoyed, but it's rare.
Yeah.
Very rare.
Yeah, I know we're sort of on opposite ends of Seth MacFarlane.
Definitely. Anyway, Seth MacFarlane And Orville has apparently made a fucking appearance in this podcast, which I thought would never happen because I fucking hate it.
Well, it's going to happen eventually.
Sorry for all those people out there that like Orville.
I'm not. It's a fucking great show. It's just not Star Trek. Get over it.
Not Star Trek.
Yeah.
Wait. The Orville is not Star Trek. I repeat, the Orville is not Star Trek.
Thank you, Big Brother.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're watching you, Winston. All right, let's get into the episode.
Righto.
We open on sick bay. Phlox is doing his rounds, feeding his pets, treatments, stock. What are they?
Yeah, that's a very good question.
I don't know. He talks to them like they're pets. And he's feeding them and whatever, and he eats a slug, and it's cute and it's funny and
Was it
it's
Sluggo?
nice. It was not Sluggo.
Oh.
No, Sluggo was not. This one looked like a blue gummy worm.
Well, it kind of looked like a blue prawny looking thing, didn't it?
Delicious.
Yeah.
Blue prawns.
Yeah. It's all right. You can have blue milk in Star Wars.
I tried that at Disneyland. Wasn't that good.
No. Was it more of a slushy?
Yeah, it was like an icy, slushy
Yeah.
milk drink.
Yeah.
Anyway, he eats the slug and then we cut to credits. We come back from skipping the credits and Phlox is still in sickbay and he gets a letter from Dr. Lucas. And after he listens to the letter from Dr. Lucas, he starts narrating a response, which is a constant narration through the whole episode, which is really good. It gives it sort of some reflective elements so that he doesn't have to have a conversation with people to talk about his thoughts all the time. And really reminded me of the framing they used for Data's Day in Next Gen.
Yeah.
When Data was writing that letter to Dr. Maddox.
Yeah.
And I really like that. I really like that device as an episode, as a writing structure or whatever they call it. I think that's a really good technique.
It's really good, especially in these sort of ones where it's such a emotional sort of reaction to what's going on. Like, you know, you're confronted with such a big thing at the end of it. So you've sort of been able to sort of follow his thoughts throughout what's been happening. I think it's really good. It's a really good way to go.
Me too. While he's doing his narration, he's doing his daily things. So he's helping someone who's been injured in engineering. He's stopped to have some food in the mess hall and tries to engage with Reed, but Reed's too busy. He has to get back to the armory. And he's treating Porthos in the sick bay. So Archer's there with Porthos because he's feeling a bit sick because Archer keeps feeding him cheese.
Which is kind of like you and mum and dad and everyone else that keeps feeding their dogs treats from the plate. You all do that.
How dare you attack me like that? I'd make sure they don't get cheese because cheese is not good for them.
No, it's not. It's bad.
Anyway, we cut to movie night and Dr. Phlox appears to be on what looks like a date with crewman Cutler and they're watching some old movie.
I couldn't tell what it was.
I'm going to guess it's an old Paramount film.
I would. You could probably get that.
Here it is. The movie being shown is the 1943 For Whom the Bell Tolls.
Okay.
Phlox is not really engaged in the movie. He's more interested in watching the audience's reaction to the movie and seeing all these people getting all emotionally upset about fictional characters.
Typical.
At one point he sees that Trip's crying and Trip's like, oh, I've got something in my eye. Classic male avoidance of emotion. Sorry, men. We cut to Phlox and Cutler walking in the corridor, obviously just after movie night. And I got to say, Cutler is great. Like, she is so good. I really enjoy her presence when she's on screen. I think that she does a really good job.
Yeah, she is. She's a good character. Very good character.
I kind of get the sense that they were planning on keeping her around for a while and making her a bigger part of the show, but unfortunately that didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It is unfortunate.
But they're talking and she's kind of flirting and she's like, this is me. This is my door.
She extended that conversation.
He kept trying to walk away
Yeah.
and she just kept talking and then he'd turn again and she's like, but wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very obvious. And then she grabbed his shoulder at one point and said, oh, sorry, I forgot Denobulans don't like to be touched. And he said that he's trying to shed some of his cultural biases or something like that.
Yeah.
And she says, well, in that case, and then kisses him on the cheek.
Yeah.
It's very cute. And then his narration keeps going and he talks about how she might be interested in me and I'm not sure how I feel about that.
What gave it away?
Yeah, well, he talks about how the human pheromones are not as strong as Denobulans.
Yeah.
And then part of the narration with Dr. Lucas is talking about how it's mating season on Denobula, and if the pheromones are pugnacious and it's mating season, I feel real sorry for Dr. Lucas.
You gotta wear a gas mask everywhere you go.
Yeah. I hope he's got some of that
Vicks rub under his nose.
yeah, a bit of Vicks rub or something under his nose.
I used to do that at work.
Did you?
Yeah, for patients.
We cut to Enterprise approaching a ship. They scan and it's a pre-warp ship. There's 2 very faint life signs on board. So, of course, Archer says, bring him on. Bring him on up.
Yeah, just put him into the bay and we'll check him out. Why not?
Why not? Tell Phlox he's got a couple of patients.
Yeah.
We cut to the sick bay and Phlox is waking up one of these aliens and Hoshi's there and they're trying to get him to speak so that the universal translator can pick up his language and start translating. He says that his race has been infected with a disease for many years and that they've been in transit for over a year from their home planet.
Trying to get someone's attention.
Yeah.
And you just bring on a couple of people who are infected onto your ship without any care.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. All standing around him as he wakes up. Yeah.
Didn't even think about... well, maybe they went through decontamination before they got to sick bay.
Well...
Maybe not.
Don't have them wearing masks or anything. COVID-19, I'm pretty sure they knew about that.
Do you think there's a COVID 2022?
Probably.
2022, 22, 20. What year is it there?
Probably a few more COVID since then.
Oh, fucking hell. So the alien also says that 12 million people have died on his planet and they've only managed to contact a couple of species, 2 of which came to them. One of them is the Ferengi. Which, of course, the audience knows who the Ferengi are, but the humans don't.
Yeah.
And Archer asks T'Pol if she's ever heard of these 2 alien species, and she says no. So, I have questions.
Yeah. Which is fair.
I think if the Ferengis have got that close to Earth at this point of history, where were they between now and next gen?
Yeah, it's a very good question.
So this alien is talking about all the stuff that's happening on his planet with all the people that are dying and the disease being around, and asks the captain for help. Please help us. Please help us. Captain asks T'Pol for advice, which is good.
Yeah.
T'Pol says that the risk of contamination seems acceptable, and so Archer says, let's do it, and instructs Phlox to start looking for a cure while they head off back to his home planet.
Yep, and I think that's absolutely reasonable. They've met other warp species. They know what it is. They know they're not alone.
Yep.
Fully.
And they're just asking for help to find a cure to a disease.
Yep.
No biggie.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair enough.
Yep. And we cut to Hoshi and Phlox having dinner and speaking in Denobulan. So she's practicing her Denobulan. And Hoshi's probing for gossip about him and Crewman Cutler. How does she not speak Denobulan fluently by now?
Yeah, I know. She should be. Shouldn't even.
Didn't she pick up Klingon in like 5 words?
Yeah.
And yet she's been with this guy for 12 weeks now? 12 episodes we're on. So let's equivalent that to weeks.
Yeah.
And she can't speak Denobulan. She can't say dating. Yeah. She says washboard, nostril.
Absolutely.
What? It was...
I get what they were trying to do, like make this cute little translation, like friendship bantery thing. I get it, and it was fine. But if you hadn't ever established her as such a wonderkind of languages, then it would make more sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It didn't make any sense whatsoever. It felt very forced. Like,
Yeah.
it just, and it wasn't necessary. They could have still had the cute scene with them talking naturally in that language.
They could have just been friendly, or maybe they could have both been practicing a different language.
Yeah.
Like they could have done something else to not make Hoshi seem more incompetent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we know that she's not. We know that she's a really strong linguist. Like she does this.
Yeah, absolutely. She's
There was a whole
herself.
episode about her having to trust herself to be able to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. She's proved herself multiple times that she's that good.
Yeah. Anyway, so that annoyed me a little.
Yeah.
But the actual scene was fine. Like it was a good scene.
Yeah, it was.
Friendly. It was good.
Yeah.
It really established Hoshi and Phlox as good friends.
Well, they've sort of shown that they're friends throughout, like with Sluggo, and so forth. Like they have little interactions.
Yeah.
And it's been good. So I mean, this just sort of cemented that, which was nice.
Absolutely. We cut to Enterprise arriving at the planet. Phlox's narration is talking about how he's always impressed by the humans' compassion. And we get a nice little shot of a city. And then we're in a hospital with Phlox, Archer, T'Pol, and Hoshi, who are getting information from some of the doctors and getting a bit of a tour around the place and seeing what's going on. Hoshi gets separated from everyone else and asks one of the people walking past a question, but the translator doesn't seem to pick up the language. So she keeps trying, and the doctor and T'Pol and everyone come back over to her, and she says, "You don't speak the same language as this guy." And he says, "No, he's a Menk." They sort of talk about that the two species have evolved on the same planet, and he's surprised that Archer and T'Pol are not from the same planet. You mean you two aren't from the same planet? The doctor says that the Menk are not as evolved as the Valakians. But he also mentions that the Menk have not contracted the disease, which is very interesting. So Dr. Phlox is basically saying, have you studied them to find out what their immunity is? Like, where does that come from?
They're like, that's the first thing we did. We're not stupid.
They're a bit stupid. We cut to sickbay. Dr. Phlox has recruited Cutler to help him. What a shock. And the flirting continues.
Yep.
And he's just packing up some stuff to take down to the planet. And he's reflecting on his relationship with Cutler and not knowing if she's interested in him and whether he really wants to pursue something. And he says that he's going to ask someone who can give him an objective opinion. Cut to T'Pol. T'Pol is in sickbay. And Dr. Phlox has done some scanning and she needs some dental work done. And she's like, I'm sure you've got more pressing matters. Don't worry about it. He says, no, we're waiting for some samples to be analysed. I can do it now. And so he starts doing some dental work and she opens her mouth and he puts his fingers in there to start doing the work and asks her a question. And obviously she does that. And it was very funny, and I'm very glad that they only did it the once because it could have easily been stupid.
Yeah,
but just that once, like you're expecting it. As soon as someone says they're going to do dental work, that's the gag, right?
Yeah, that's it. Exactly, that's it.
So good. But basically, she says that humans are easily infatuated by new things, and that once their interest or in the novelty of a new species wears off, they probably won't care anymore.
Yeah. But this is...
What a bitch.
She's probably not wrong, though.
Well, I mean, like she might be.
Humans are pretty into their fads and move on. Because this is where he said, what do you know about humans? And...
Yeah, Dr. Phlox is doing the work and he says, you've been interacting with humans or living amongst humans for...
more than 8 years
long
or
time.
So,
have you ever known any humans to mate with another species? well, where's my alarm button? I need a red alert button on this fucking thing. Like, Dr. Phlox himself acknowledged in the episode Unexpected, which was not that long ago, that when Trip got pregnant on that away mission, that he was the first person to be the first human to be involved in an interspecies
Coupling. Yeah. So
he should have already known.
Yeah, so that's not the question to ask because he already knows the answer.
Exactly. But anyway, minor detail, really. We cut to Archer's ready room and Phlox is entering and says, "You wanted to see me, Captain?" And the captain wants an update if there's been any progress on the research. And Dr. Phlox says, "Yes, but illness is genetic. The Valakians will be extinct within 2 centuries, and it's basically an evolutionary process."
Yeah, DNA based.
Yeah. And Archer says, "Well, what about a cure?" And he said, it's possible, but it is much more difficult than a virus or a disease or something. This is a genetic problem. He says that he still believes that the Menk might hold an answer, that their immunity might hold an answer to the problem, but he doesn't have an answer yet. Archer says, "Keep working. Throw everything you've got at it." What the fuck?
Yeah, instead of, let's get a team on it.
Yeah. You do it, Dr. Phlox.
Yeah, you as a very individual who doesn't even have a nurse on board to help you or do anything,
Nope.
Just go and do it yourself. Go on,
Exactly.
Off you pop. No raises, no bonuses, no extras. Just go. Work 24 hours.
We cut to it looks like a tribal village, right? And there's fire, there's tiki torches.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, there's just basic tents and...
Yeah. Phlox, Hoshi, and Cutler are there to take some blood samples and do some scanning and stuff of the Menk. And the universal translator doesn't appear to be working properly. It'll translate, but it'll only put
in text.
words on the device rather than actually what it usually does.
Yeah,
so Hoshi has to read it all.
Yeah, which is just silly. So it can't do it audibly, but it will do it in text.
Which is bizarre to me.
Yeah, it's strange.
But Phlox is reflecting about how both species are living peacefully side by side, and that despite the Valakians being more civilized and the Menk being more primitive, they've found a way to culturally live together peacefully, and that's pretty rare.
Yeah, and it's rare in Star Trek too, because usually you find when they come across this thing, it's usually pretty heated.
There's usually someone taking advantage of another.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas they seem to look after them. As much as they say, you can't live here or whatever, which they've done in this, but they look after them. They give them food and clothing and shelter and they actually look after them. So it's like, yeah, you can't live where the land's fertile, but, have everything you need.
Yeah. Which, it might not be the most ideal situation and maybe not the most fair or equitable or whatever, but it was working for them.
Exactly.
So culturally, it's fine. It's that's just how they work.
It sounds rough to us, but on their culture, it's
correct.
fine.
Yeah. While they're interacting with the Menk, they notice that one of them is starting to speak English. He says food, and they're surprised. No one's been teaching him. He's just sort of picked it up on his own. And also that he has been sorting all the samples, all the blood samples they've been taking. He's been sorting them and marking them by family and cross-referencing with marriage and bloodlines and all those sorts of things. So clearly the Menk are a lot smarter than they appear, or that the Valakians are giving them credit for. But yeah, they do. This is where they do talk about the Valakians don't let them live where the soil is good, and they provide everything, which is kind of what we just said.
Yeah.
Hoshi and Cutler are kind of talking like the Valakians treat the Menk like pets. They don't let them grow their own food or do anything. They take care of them like they're pets. And Cutler's a bit upset that Phlox isn't upset about this. This doesn't bother you at all. And the way she frames it is kind of like they force the Menk to live in these compounds, and that's not really what's going on. And that's what Phlox kind of talks to, is that most planets with 2 species like this end up at war, and one of them ends up killing the other one and wiping them out. And then he brings up his own cultural differences and starts saying that I have 3 wives. And she says, oh, you've got 2 ex-wives?
Yeah.
He says, no, I have 3 current wives.
Yeah.
And they each have 2 other husbands. And she's like, oh, okay. Is that normal for your culture? And he's like, yeah, that's right. Very. But he's just trying to highlight that the cultural differences between humans and other species sometimes don't appear on the surface relatable, right? They're not. You can't judge them the same as you would if that situation was in human culture, because the cultures are too different.
Yeah, absolutely different.
And it was a great way of highlighting that, I think.
Yeah, it was.
And Cutler took it on board, right? Yeah. She didn't get argumentative, or they just sort of had a really honest, good conversation about it.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, this is where he confronts her directly. He says, I've picked up on signals that are telling me that you might actually be interested in me romantically. And she's like, and he's like, have I been wrong about that? She's like, no, but I'm not interested in being wife number 4.
Yeah.
So let's sort of be friends. And then he's like, well, what do you mean by friends? And she's like, well, let's just see where it goes. And that's sort of where they leave it.
And then we cut to the alien pilot that we first met in sickbay, and he's in a hospital bed on the planet, and Archer walks in, and he says that the medicine that Archer and the team gave helps with the pain, but the prognosis is still the same. He's still basically on his deathbed. Archer says we're still trying, and he says that he wanted to thank Archer for bringing them home before it was too late.
Now, did they look for the other ships?
No.
It's like we said 3 ships, you found mine, and we just left the other 2 floating out there, didn't give a fuck.
Don't need them. Don't worry about it. But during that conversation, at the end of that conversation, this alien patient asked Archer for warp drive technology. Archer says he will think about it, and then he gets a phone call from the team with Phlox and Hoshi and that, saying that they've done all their samples and they're ready to go, so get back to the shuttlecraft now. So we cut to the bridge. Archer comes on board. T'Pol's in the captain's chair and says that they've had 29 clinics ask for help from the surface, and a couple of ships have come up thinking that they already had a cure and that she had to turn them away. Archer wants to speak to T'Pol alone, so they go into the ready room, and he says that the Valakians have asked for warp drive technology, and they have a really interesting discussion about what is okay and what's not okay to do, really. And one of the things that I really liked out of that conversation is that she says that the Vulcans stayed to help the humans 90 years ago, and we're still there. Are you ready for that?
Yeah, that's right. You make the commitment, you're going to have to stick to it.
Yeah. So, because they talk about how they're not ready for it, they don't understand antimatter technology, they don't know how dangerous it is.
Yeah.
We could give them schematics, but their technology is not up to date enough to understand it.
Yeah.
So
you have to walk them through everything.
Yeah. So are you prepared to invest everything?
Yeah.
It's
just like, oh.
Maybe not.
I'm beginning to understand.
Yeah, Archer says he's beginning to understand how the Vulcans must have felt 90 years ago, which is an amazing moment of growth for Archer, I think.
Yeah.
Because they've always been so critical of the Vulcans and how they have handled the last 100 years of help.
Yeah, how they've treated humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to have that reflection of, I think I'm starting to understand that, shows some really great character growth for Archer, I think.
Yeah, it was good insight. It was great.
Right at the end of that, we get a really short shot of Phlox looking through a microscope and then leaning back, and his body sort of slumps a little bit.
And the look on his face, jeez.
Yeah, and then we cut to a commercial.
Yeah.
Well, we cut to a black screen that would have been a commercial back in the early 2000s. We cut to the mess hall, and Archer is in there, and Dr. Phlox walks in. And they have a quick, brief conversation about not being able to sleep, and Phlox talks about his 6-day hibernation once a year, and that's kind of the only rest Denobulans have. But Archer's more interested is there any progress on the cure? Have you found one? And Phlox says, even if I did, I'm not sure it would be ethical. And he says, ethical? What are you talking about? You took an oath. You're a doctor. And they have a discussion about how the Valakians are basically dying. This genetic disorder is an evolutionary process for them to die out, and the Menk are starting to develop to become the better or more dominant species on the planet.
Yeah.
But Archer struggles with this. He's like, are you suggesting that we should pick one species over the other? And Phlox's argument is kind of like, no, let nature take its course.
Yeah.
And the example that he gives Archer to sort of try to help him understand that is, what if aliens had have interfered and given the Neanderthals an evolutionary advantage over humans? And Archer says he appreciates that idea, that discussion, his point of view, whatever.
Yeah.
And Dr. Phlox says that evolution is not a theory, and I don't want your compassion to affect your judgment.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's not a theory.
And Archer
it's a fundamental.
says,
it's a fundamental. What is fuck? It was good. It was like a fundamental reality of science or something. Something like that. It was so good.
But this is where Dr. Phlox also confesses that he already has a cure.
Yeah, it has for 2 days.
Yeah. Shocking.
Which, like, I understand it completely, especially with Archer being a captain and some of his choices that he's made.
Yeah.
Because his choices haven't always been what you would consider
big picture worthy.
Yeah, big picture is definitely the word. whereas as Phlox said in this argument is with him is that, you know, I am also a scientist, not just a doctor. So I may have given an oath to look after people who need help, but I'm also a scientist and look at the big picture overall. And you know, this is an evolutionary thing that's happening, and I don't have a place to interfere.
Yeah, it's not our place.
Yeah.
Yep. We cut to sickbay. It's obviously the next morning, and Phlox is giving Archer some medication, and Archer says he's going down to the planet, and Phlox says that he hopes that Archer can look beyond his sympathy for these people and to reconsider.
Yeah.
And Archer says, I have reconsidered. I've been up all night reconsidering, and I don't know whether I like this call or whether I think it's just a little too on the nose. But this is where he says, someday my people will form a directive. Okay, he didn't quite say it like that, but that's the impression that I got. That's the kind of thing, the vibe that he was going for.
He virtually said it. He virtually said it like that.
Yeah. You're all astronauts on some sort of Star Trek.
Yeah.
Anyway, he says basically that we did not come out here to play God.
Yeah.
So he's choosing to do the right thing. Let evolution take its course. We cut back to the hospital, and Archer's there giving medication to the doctor and says that this will help ease the symptoms for a decade or so. And they say that we don't have a cure and you can't have warp drive. And instead of getting angry, getting upset, getting whatever, they just say, we appreciate what you've done.
Yeah.
Like, what a great species.
What a shame they won't be around anymore.
Yeah. It's a real shame they're going to die soon. So we cut back to sickbay. Phlox is finishing his letter. He says he's got new appreciation and respect for Archer, which, same.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Hoshi walks in and says he wanted to see me. And he gives her the, like, whatever, the USB stick with the letter on it. She asks, is everything all right? And he says it's just been a tough couple of days, basically. And she says her advice is to get out of sickbay. So he calls Cutler on the comm and says, do you want to meet in the mess hall for a snack? I could use a friend right now. And she says, I'll see you there in 10 minutes. And he closes up the shop, turns the lights off, and that's the end of the episode.
Yeah, that's it.
The end. All right, now that we've talked through the episode, what did you think?
It's great.
Final thoughts, reflections?
It was just a great episode. Like, it was really good. It was a very Star Trek episode. Like, it felt really good to watch. Like, that conundrum of should I help, shouldn't I help? But, like, all of that was just really good. I enjoyed it a lot.
It was very Star Trek.
Yeah.
This is what Star Trek does best, I think.
Like,
So,
just
but
brilliant.
yes, this was the most Trekky Trek that we've had so far on our track. All right, life lesson for this one.
Well, yeah, I suppose don't play God's about the only one, really. Well, not the only one, but the best one.
Yeah, I think not playing God, being sensitive to other cultural differences, which we've talked about before in this podcast, I think that's really important as well. So just not interacting with people based on your cultural understanding of your existence and applying that lens to someone else. I think that's really important. And that's what I got out of this episode.
Yeah.
And Dr. Phlox be banging.
Yeah, he's a bloody good character. I've liked him since the start, so it's just good to have an episode with him as the main. It was good.
Yeah, it was a really good episode.
Yeah.
Well, let's do the IMDb rating. So for those listening at home, our examples of 1 episodes are Voyager's Threshold and Next Gen's Code of Honor, and examples of 10 episodes are Next Gen's Tapestry and DS9's Far Beyond the Stars. Where are we putting Dear Doctor?
Well, I mean,
Now, before you say anything, and last week Silent Enemy was a 7, and we've also had an 8, which was the Andorian incident.
all right.
Where would you rate Dear Doctor?
Well, I'd put it at an 8 or a 9.
I think I would say 9.
Yeah.
I think this is pretty high up there
Yeah.
as far as Trek goes.
Yeah, I'd put it up there too.
Okay.
Like, I'd be happy with a 9.
9 it is. Wow, we've got a 9 already. 12 episodes in and we're already hitting a 9. Brilliant.
Pretty good.
Okay, that's it for this week. So you can find us on Facebook at Temporal Directive Podcast and Instagram, just Temporal Directive, or you can get in touch via email at wakefield_productions@outlook.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts on whether Dr. Phlox and Archer have done the right thing or not, or anything Trek related. So please get in touch. Next week's episode is Sleeping Dogs, which rings no bells to me.
No, but you got to let them lie, right?
Apparently so. So we'll see you then. Live long and prosper.
Peace and long life.